The other day, George Pataki announces that he's going to announce that he's going to run. Now, we're talking about really scraping the bottom of the barrel. A lot of you may not even know who George Pataki is. He was the governor of New York. I don't even remember when. 10 years ago?
Something like that.
Somewhere around there. George Pataki was a real uncharismatic figure, even when he was governor of New York. He's the type, you've heard like when people say like, when this guy or this woman walks into a room, everybody's aware of it. George Pataki's the type of guy who, when he walks into a room, no one's aware of it. And even when he jumps up and down.
He's here. The governor's here.
Where? You're just looking around. You don't even realize he's sitting across. So now I always knew this about George Pataki, and policy-wise, never terribly impressed with him. Didn't follow a lot of his policies at the time when he was governor, because I just wasn't involved in New York that much. But about 4 years ago, I had the opportunity to sit across from him on a Dylan Ratigan panel. As you know, on Dylan Ratigan's old show on MSNBC, I would show up on a weekly basis. And sometimes I would get to sit at the table with people that I found that I appreciated, and other times people who I did not appreciate. George Pataki was one that I didn't go into having one sense or another, but I found him a reprehensible person. Just reprehensible. So let's go. We got two clips here. I'm not quite clear on what they are, but at first it starts off, we're talking about Medicare cuts and the possibility of raising the eligibility age for Medicare. And the argument that I'm making is that, we hear all of these CEOs, they can't get their pay cuts for AIG because it would be, a problem with the contract. And we hear about, we can't default on our debt, which I agree with. This is when the Republicans were trying to push the debt ceiling thing, because it would punish bondholders. And I said, that's right, except for when we talk about cutting promised Social Security benefits or promised Medicare benefits, we are essentially defaulting on those promises. And so I get into it a little bit with Pataki. During the break before this, Pataki had been talking about how nice his sprawling estate was on, I don't know if it was a Great Lake or one of the lakes in upstate New York, and how it was gorgeous to go up to that farm and this and that, and God bless. We got a place upstate. We go upstate. But this guy's talking about all of this privilege that he has, all of this beautiful, and then pivots to talking about how obnoxious it is that people would talk about cutting Medicare is somehow problematic. Here's the first clip.
We're not restructuring our debt. We're spending ourselves into oblivion. And we've just seen the growth of entitlements like Obamacare, massive increase in discretionary spending that is unsustainable. And by the way, Dylan, you obviously have been paying a lot of attention to President Obama because you created this brilliant straw man, millions of people dying on the streets, or we restructure.
There you go. He's mocking the idea that somehow if we cut Medicare, there'll be people who will be suffering. And so he's supposedly going to wrap it up. I hear somebody say in our ears, wrap. And I use this opportunity to jump in and get the last word. Here I go. I unleashed on Pataki a little bit. And I'll tell you what he said to me in response after the show, after the segment was over.
I did that for your benefit. I put on a little show.
Sam is in favor of the millions dying in the streets, I think. I would be against that.
But there's actually a tremendous amount of pain out there now.
Yeah. Of course there is.
And it's not an exaggeration. It's not an exaggeration to say so. I mean, the fact of the matter is there's a big difference between retiring at age 65 or 67 or getting health care at 65 or 67. And you would have people people go out into the private insurance market to get that
No,
so
I
that
wouldn't.
bondholders and other wealthy in this country can have to pay their share of taxes.
My time is now. This has been absolutely sensational. William, I appreciate you coming and injecting yourself to this madness. Governor, I appreciate you helping
Dylan.
to engage the debate and drive the madness. Same goes for you, Sam and Imogen. And when I say madness, what I actually really mean is I feel like that I've been part of one of the more interesting and compelling debates on debt.
Okay. So that's the segment's over. Pataki is steaming mad. They cut away to commercial. He looks across the table. In front of, there's 4 people at the table, 5 people. Radigan, a guy named William Cohen, who has written a book about Goldman Sachs, a guy just coincidentally I knew from Worcester 30 years earlier. I was friends with his brother. And Imogen Lloyd Webber. And Pataki, we go to break. He looks across to me. He goes, do you really believe any of that stuff you're saying? Because you don't look that stupid to me. And he was so angry at me. And I was so happy about it. But here's a guy who just really just loves to crap on the idea that, I don't know, people might be suffering, in pain, need help. And is doing so from such an incredible position of privilege. It was just, I just found it nauseating. So I am very happy that George Pataki is in this race because he's going to get his ass kicked. It's going to be humiliating. And George, after you're done losing, and maybe not even be able to get anybody to give you any money, after you're done, see you back out on whatever it is, 6th Ave up there as you're knocking on NBC's door or CBS's door or Fox's door to try and get like a little analyst position.
There's funny, which all of these candidates are, from Lindsey Graham to Carly Fiorina, but then there's just delusional.
Right.
And George Pataki is delusional.
Indeed.
He doesn't even win in that California recall scenario. I don't know
Indeed.
what he could possibly be thinking.